A demon boy named Riheet enters the royal kingdom of Orvelia. Meanwhile, a guardian knight named Kasel is dominated in a sword-fighting duel by Klaus. Then he meets Frey, who has been his friend ever since they were in an orphanage together. Now, the king's advisor Bel informs him about the Dark Elf, and then Lord Elmoriham arrives with Riheet, whom he claims to be his bodyguard. He reasons that Riheet is the leader of the Black Edge and wants to use the elf army for protecting the kingdom. However, the others resist his advances. Later, Riheet and his elves hunt down an innocent man, and then we learn that they are conspiring to overthrow Orvelia by pretending to be mercenaries. The next day, some knights are attacked by overpowered skeleton knights, and most of them are taken down. Klaus allows Gran to escape, while he takes on the demon soldiers all by himself. The council panics once this news reaches them, but El suggests using the Dark Elves as backup. Now Frey meets Kasel, who tells her that he's going to find Klaus. She decides to follow him as her priestess powers can be useful. They make their way through the forest and find all the dead knights lying on the ground. Kasel is saddened to see this, and then he finds Klaus's shield. Suddenly, an army of demon knights attack them. Kasel takes them on, but a demon princess named Maria arrives and defeats him with ease. Things are looking bad, but luckily, Riheet and his elves come to the rescue. An intense battle follows, so the demon girl makes her escape. After this, our heroes meet a sorceress named Cleo and her bodyguard Roy. They tell Kasel and Frey about the epic sage Dominyx, and they seem to remember him from the orphanage. Cleo transports everyone to a floating town, where they finally meet the great sage. He takes them to Klaus, who's heavily injured but still alive. The warrior wakes up and tells them what happened, after which he confirms that Maria was not related to the skeleton demons. Our heroes decide to stay here for now, and then Frey goes to meet Kasel, who feels bad that he couldn't save his friends the same way he couldn't save his dead mother. The Dark Elves return to the castle and prove their battle skills, so El convinces the council to use their services. Later, he makes an evil plan with Riheet so that they can overrule Orvelia together. The next day, Dominyx summons Kasel and Frey and reveals that Kasel is the son of legendary King Kyle. Meanwhile, we see Riheet's sister Repine, who enjoys some food with Tam and the other elves. Dominyx takes us to a flashback where we see Kyle and his elf friend, Ilya, dueling with each other. Dominyx serves as their advisor, and Kyle expresses his wishes to become king. He marries Arlette, who is Kasel's mother, but his father opposes this, and then a demon army invades the kingdom. Kyle and his men successfully defeat the first wave, and he becomes the king after that. But the attacks continue, so he teams up with Lorraine of the Elves and Eotola of the Orcs. Despite this, he gets outnumbered, so he seeks shelter with Arlette, who is pregnant with Kasel. Kyle makes a wish to preserve his son, so Lua, the goddess of light, appears. She gives him the overpowered sword Aea, which helps him defeat the demon lord Angmund. Now Ilya does some research to help Kyle with his studies, but her actions are seen as blasphemous towards Lua, so she is treated like an enemy. Even King Kyle vanishes from sight along with Angmund, who was summoned by the Dark Lord Malduk. These events are what have led to the current mistreatment of Dark Elves. Now Dominyx reveals that Arlette was put to sleep for 100 years, after which she gave birth, but was killed by demons soon after. Kasel wants the Holy Sword as he fears the Demon Lord might reawaken, so Dominyx suggests meeting Lorraine. He orders Cleo and Roy to accompany our heroes, and then the team is transported out of the floating city. However, Maria keeps a close watch on them. The team reaches Elidora Forest and are suddenly attacked by an army of demons. Roy takes down the first batch, and then an elf lady named Celine defeats the others. She leads the team through the forest and reveals that Lorraine had asked her to look for Kasel. Celine is revealed to be a princess when the forest spirits try to haunt the humans. These spirits use their powers to distract our heroes, but they find a baby tree named Chibi who guides them back to Celine. Kasel bonds with Chibi, and it surprises Celine as treants don't easily trust humans. As everyone spends some time together, they notice a tree monster fighting an overpowered plant demon. It gets killed, and then everyone engages in battle, including Chibi. However, the baby tree is taken hostage, and Kasel tries his best to stop the demon, but eventually, Chibi gets killed. Kasel loses his mind and angrily slays the demon, after which Lorraine shows herself. Kasel regains his composure and apologizes for losing Chibi, but Lorraine reassures him that he did the right thing. He asks for the Holy Sword, but she advises against taking off the seal as the power might destroy his body. The team buries Chibi's remains, and then Lorraine asks Celine if Kasel is worthy of the holy power. She isn't able to come up with an answer, so Lorraine tells her to take some time. Celine goes out for some fresh air, and then she sees Kasel talking to Chibi's grave. Surprisingly, the baby tree is revived as a sprout, and this impresses Celine, so she vouches for Kasel in front of Lorraine. The Elf Queen decides to break the seal of the Holy Sword and confirms that Kasel is indeed the true heir. Then she reveals that there are two more seals, one with Eotola and the other with Pavel. Suddenly, the plant demon from the previous day is revived, so Kasel shows off his new powers in style and kills the beast for good. Now our heroes leave so that they can meet the orcs. However, they run into Maria, who attacks Kasel. He manages to push her away with his new powers, and the Demon Witch learns that he wields the Holy Sword, but warns him that this power is simply Lua's curse. Our heroes ignore her words and carry on with their quest. They enter a new town and enjoy a nice meal, but Frey decides to skip the meat. Cleo wants to go sightseeing, but she gets too excited and the team runs out of cash. With no other option, Cleo leads the team to work as maids and make some money so that they can pay for the hotel. Here, Cleo makes a show of her magic, but ends up burning the kitchen. She feels guilty for what she's done, so Frey decides to give her company. The next day, Roy tries to make a shady tree, while the others try to look for employment in a creepy house. They put in a lot of work, but their boss is very mean, and it leads to an argument between her and Cleo. The restaurant is finally cleaned, and the madam rewards her workers with a delicious meal. She tells them about how the town was demolished by the flames of war, and asks Cleo not to use her magic here. Later at night, Cleo is attacked by skeleton demons, so Kasel helps her out. However, there are too many of them, and Cleo refuses to use her magic because of what Madam told her. Luckily, the old lady motivates her to unleash her strength. So Cleo kills all the demons with her impressive flames. Now, Roy shows up with the extra cash from his trades. And Frey decides to manage the money as our heroes move forward. A flashback shows how the Dark Elves were mistreated by the humans, and then we see them in action as they defeat the Demon Knights. Riheet goes to meet Belle, and he sees him chatting with the princesses Scarlet and Ophelia. Scarlet is shown to be the commander-chief, and she promotes Riheet as he has proven his merit to her. He tells his Dark Elves about it, and they celebrate with joy, but he remains cautious. The next day, Riheet joins the Knights, but the nobleman Zero oppose his inclusion. Scarlet vouches for Riheet, and then her knight Demia briefs the squad on the rising number of demons. Riheet comes up with an impressive plan, and it makes Zero jealous of the Dark Elves. He asks the council members for support, but even his own father refuses to help him. The people of Orvelia show love towards Stan, but then he is attacked in an alley. Luckily, he keeps his calm and is helped by one of the other elves. A girl named Sheila helps him with his injury, and then he reports back to the elves. Later at night, Riheet gets confirmation of Zero's involvement with the attack and confronts him directly. He is about to kill the evil nobleman, but his dad begs for mercy, so he spares him. Our heroes continue on their way and joke with each other, but then they see a little girl named Elise who catches Frey's attention. After that, they meet a man named Hendel who runs a shelter for those who have been attacked by demons. The team offers to help them rebuild their home, and then Frey spots Elise again. She runs away, and then Frey learns about her troubled past. She asks to stay the night so that she can bond with Elise, so the team agrees. Frey gets to work on the children and makes them play some games. However, Elise remains distant from the others and even fights with one of the girls. Frey tries to console her, and then Elise finally expresses her feelings. This helps her become more friendly with the others, and it pleases Hendel, who offers Frey a permanent place at the shelter. At night, Cleo tells the others about this, but Kasel is confident that Frey will not abandon them. However, Elise asks Frey not to leave, and then she locks her up in a cabin. Kasel shows up and convinces Elise to lead him to Frey, but then they are attacked by a couple of worm demons. Luckily, Frey breaks out of the cabin and helps Kasel as they engage in a fierce battle with the monsters. Our heroes eventually come out on top, and Elise comes to terms with Frey's departure. Now the team finds a town that was attacked by demons. They run into a man and ask him for information, but he turns out to be a zombie. An army of the undead appears, and Roy fights some of them, while Cleo uses her fire powers to block them. In the middle of this, our heroes meet a man named Johan, and inside his cabin, he tells them how the demon knights turned everyone from his village into zombies, and that's when they learn that he is actually Elise's father. Johan is reassured of his daughter's health, but he says that he can't leave the area just yet. At night, our heroes discuss how to tackle the undead corpses, and then Cleo reveals that the Tower of the Sage has all the information they need to understand them. Later, Kasel hears something odd coming from the basement and checks it out. To his surprise, he sees that Johan has kept his zombie wife Lisa in a dungeon as he hopes to find a cure for her. Kasel tells Roy about it, so the team tries to convince Johan that his wife is dead. However, he refuses to believe this and says he cannot abandon her. Kasel gets emotional and tells Johan that he must care for Elise as she is still alive. The crazed father comes to his senses when Lisa attacks him, but then an army of zombies ambush the cabin. The team engages in a fierce battle with the beasts, and then Johan finally kills Lisa in an emotional moment. After handling the zombies, our heroes continue their journey, and then we see the Dark Elves being given a warm welcome on the streets. Tam goes to look for Sheila, while Klaus thanks Riheet for saving Kasel and Frey. Now Scarlet updates her sick father about the Dark Elves, but the king expresses concern when he hears El's name. Scarlet becomes anxious now, but Demia consoles her. Then the princess has a chat with Riheet, and they begin to bond while Sheila and Tam overcome their shyness and spend some time together. The next day, Scarlet warns everyone about the possible resurrection of the Dark Lord, so Riheet tricks her into leading him to the revival spot. Later, Tam's meetings with Sheila gets exposed, and he's confronted at home, but Riheet vouches for him. Tam chats with Ripon about Sheila, and she takes him back to a memory where Riheet sacrificed his own food for her when they were escaping the humans. She threatens to kill Tam if he gets in Riheet's way, and he understands her point. The next day, Tam meets Sheila and tells her about his traumatic past, after which he explained that he's not a hero. In a painful moment, Tam bids Sheila goodbye. Now we see Maria with Malduk, who is hoping to bring back the Demon Lord. A flashback shows us how Malduk was a researcher under Kyle and Princess Jane after the passing of the king. Malduk tricks Jane into allowing him to revive her father, but he brings him back as a zombie. Kyle sends the Dark Lord away from their kingdom, and this was the origin of his villain story. Now our heroes find the orcs Kalla and Dale fighting zombie orcs, and they decide to help them out with their powers. Dale is skeptical of the humans, but Kalla vouches for Kasel as he had seen a vision of his arrival. Our hero reveals himself to be the Holy Heir, but learns that Eotola is dead and Chief Sig has taken his place. Dale reveals that some humans have been working with the demons, and then Kalla offers to take Kasel to Sieg. However, the others need to stay back while he makes his way to the Orc Chief. As they wait, Cleo accidentally scribbles on a holy pillar, and it leads to an awkward situation with the Orc guards. Now Kasel meets Sig, but the chief challenges the Holy Heir to a duel to prove his identity. Our hero gets into an argument with the Orc boss, and he is eventually allowed to visit the Holy Shrine so that he can retrieve the talisman that Eotola had left behind. Cleo and the others are also brought to the scene as hostages, so the stakes are high for Kasel. Kaula leads him to the Holy Shrine while Cleo, Roy, and Frey wait for him. Kasel enters the shrine and is ordered by some voices to show his heart to them. After a brief struggle, he hears his mother's voice and is taken to a flashback where he has a meal with Arlette. Meanwhile, Cleo tries to tease the orcs, but is given the silent treatment. Now, we see Kasel reliving his past, as we see a happy memory of him and Arlette. They go back home and Kasel is asked to go to sleep, but then he relives the exact same moment. However, this time, he sees a troubling vision and then he snaps out of it. The illusion of his mother tries to convince him to abandon the real world and live this fantasy forever, but Kasel remembers his mission and refuses to do so. He passes the holy test, and his actions summon the spirit of Eotola. Kasel receives a talisman and returns to his friend with proof of his identity. Now that Sieg is convinced, he breaks the second seal and motivates Kasel to become a great king just like Kyle. However, Malduk shows up and is revealed to be the sorcerer responsible for the zombie orcs. The Dark Lord attacks Sieg, so Kasel takes him on, but Malduk is too overpowered for him. The battle rages on, and then Kasel gets triggered when Malduk attacks Frey, so he unleashes his true powers upon the villain. Malduk is shocked to see his strength and escapes before getting killed. However, Kasel passes out after using too much power. And that's the end of part 1. Like, share, and subscribe so that I can get to work on part 2 ASAP. Tap the bell icon for notifications. I'll see you soon.